non-existent listeners, users.
Hello.
Hello, Void.
I'm Maddie still.
I'm still Aaron, I think.
My drink has changed, though.
Oh, it has.
It's now rum with Diet Dr. Pepper.
I lost mine. BRB.
We're really professional. In case you couldn't tell.
Fuck, did I leave my margarita? Oh, there it is.
We're on season 1, episode 7. This segment, Hookman.
It was hiding behind my laptop.
Oh.
It's still a cherry margarita. It's just watered down slightly with more seltzer.
Okay.
Also, we don't have to be professional unless you non-existent viewers out there in the void want to start paying us.
That's true.
I like money.
I also like money. It'd be very interesting to get paid to do this. Like, sure, I'll wax poetic and you can trash Supernat if we're getting paid for it.
100%.
Like,
I'll do ads for fucking purple mattresses and Squarespace for that.
What about like Tesla cars though?
They wouldn't sponsor us.
What would sponsor us? Just purple mattress and Squarespace?
From every other podcast I listen to, it would be Purple Mattress, Squarespace, and Pretty Litter.
What was that last one?
Pretty Litter.
Pretty
Litter.
That like perfectly describes our show.
Yeah, that's us in 3 products.
We need some kind of like shitty alcohol sponsor though.
Oh God, yes.
Kharkov?
Sponsored by Fireball. I'd gag a little reading every little like sales monologue.
I'll read them. You'll drink.
I do enjoy, is it even a sidebar when we haven't started yet? But sidebar, I do enjoy when like podcast ads get to kind of do their own thing and they make it weird. Like we could do, if we had liquor ads, I could do an ad for Fireball explaining why I don't drink Fireball anymore. And that would be a fun ad.
I still drink Fireball. I do not drink apple cider whiskey.
Everyone's got one. Everyone's got one. Fireball.
Everyone's got something. I don't know what it is about apple cider whiskey, but whoo, serpents bite, folks. It's an apple cider whiskey that has led to some days. Night of is always fine. It's just the next day you're like, everything is terrible. It feels
chills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first time I didn't even know I was hungover when I first woke up. I got up.
It's the dreaded creeping hangover.
Yeah. Yep. I got up, ate breakfast, had some coffee, went to get in the shower, tipped my head back. And when I tipped my head back, whatever, yeah, everything changed when I tipped my head back in that shower. I literally fetal positioned on the floor. Fortunately, there was a like nice big rug down in this floor. Just curled up under a towel to preserve whatever like modesty I had, and on my side just in case I passed out and started puking, because this is how I live my life. There's a lot of anxiety that needs to be like worked through.
So you and I were clearly the good drunk taken care of friends.
Yes. Yep.
In college.
Yep. 100%. 100%. I have a college roommate who actually puked outside the MSUM presidents.
Oh, that's appropriate. My college roommate, we went out for St. Patrick's Day and she threw up green beer on the lawn.
Oh, that's great.
And actually we walked back from the bar and she just kind of flopped down on the lawn. And I went in front of the old main building and I went, okay, flopped down on the lawn.
All right.
We lay there and it was delightful. And then she got up, puked green beer. And I got her back to our suite, put her to bed, made sure she didn't die. And
yeah.
She had a great habit of not remembering. It doesn't matter how much or how little she drank. She didn't remember a single fucking thing that happened the night before. It wasn't like a blackout situation. She just drunk elephant, did not know.
Yeah.
And so, oh wait, no, elephant's the opposite. I was the elephant because I remembered. And so lunch or breakfast the next morning would be me describing to her all the shit that she did the night before.
Yeah. I think the worst thing, squeamish folks, we haven't really started yet, but this particular story is pretty nasty. So like,
squeamish jazz hands.
Yeah, we'll jazz hands when it's safe to return.
When it's safe to return.
So the same instance where my roommate puked on the lawn, another one had just finished up their nursing program, and the tradition was that they take a party bus around. So she was on a party bus for like 4.5 hours. They stopped for large burgers and drank a lot. And then I don't know if you've ever been to Mug Night in town here.
Which one?
The one on the Moorhead side of the river. Okay. Well, this was tradition for our college because, you know, they couldn't afford to go anywhere else where you'd get giant $2 mug of beer.
Oh, Vicks.
Yeah. Yeah. But on top of that, they would have like $2 amaretto shots that night or some other like nasty cheap liquor.
It's an easy drinking thing. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So she finished the 4-hour bus tour, went to Vicks, had her mug plus however many shots. I have no idea how many shots because I didn't get there until midnight because I was working. I stayed sober, unsurprisingly.
Because by that point, why bother?
Well, right. She had her mug in her hands and all of a sudden just like lurched forward.
Oh no.
And straight into the mug, which was empty, fortunately, but just started puking into this mug, filled it up on her way to the bathroom.
Oh no. Oh, that's bad. Oh.
We actually got asked to leave that night, not because of her, but because my other friends, the one that puked on the lawn, tripped over a chair, which isn't like really anyone's fault in a bar. Like if there's it's dark.
It's a small bar.
It's a bar.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were asked to leave after both of those instances happened.
Fair.
But I was just shocked. I'm like, I have zero like bodily control when I'm puking. So just the very calm like puke and
yeah. No, same. I am also the world's loudest puker. Like I cannot not throw up with the horrible cartoon noise. Like it's just I can't not do it. I've got my father's runner's lungs. Like I can't not make that noise.
Do you get like sore after puking then? Because I always associate that with like someone who has to put a lot of effort into puking.
My throat bleeds every time.
Ew.
Which I mentioned to Chris once, and he's like, if you're bleeding when you throw up, that's a problem. You should go to the doctor. I'm like, no. It's not coming from...
I agree with that.
Well, I know it's not coming from the belly. It's just, my throat's just raw. It's not a lot. Like, I'm not throwing up blood. It's just like Wathu at the end. Oh, it's a little pink, you know. And I definitely always have little like broken blood vessels all over my face from the effort, the rictus, just the you know, that awful fucking thing. Every time.
Oh.
I don't know if you non-existent listeners, watchers out in the void know this, but I'm hot as fuck. I'm the world's most attractive lady. Hey.
It's true. Anyway, so college parties. One takes place in this episode.
Sure does. Actually, two. The most college parties. Like, that's I didn't write this down, but that was one thought I had while watching this. Like, I was like, granted, I was never cool. I didn't go to parties. I went to an all-women's college. We didn't do shit. But like,
It sounds like lies, but
well, we had fun, but it's not like I was going to I wasn't going to parties at Villanova on the weekends. Like half of the campus was, you know.
Villanova.
Yeah. I wasn't even going to parties at Bryn Mawr, like the other half of the campus was.
Not the football, the basketball kids.
Right.
That's what
But
they're good at.
like, do parties like this actually exist?
So here is what I can say. Me and my roommates did not do this either in college. However, one of my roommates' younger siblings hosted several of these types of parties.
Okay. Like the classic, the red Solo cup. The girls dancing in the living room. Like, I guess I did that in my 20s.
Have I told you about the night? I think you were there, actually. The birthday party I went to with all of my cousins where we just bar hopped down Broadway.
I may have been there. I think I was.
I think you were there for part of it anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe not. No. That would have been... That would have been before. Way before. Never mind. This was in like 2012.
Oh, okay. I did not know you then.
We did not know each other then, but for whatever reason, that seems like something you would have been at. Anyway, so we bar hopped down Broadway, scarfed an entire spicy pie pizza.
Hell yeah.
For those of you who don't know, this is like an 18-inch, like extra large pizza. And then we went down into this party while we were all drunk and all of the college students were drunk. And that's the only college party I've ever been to. I had already been graduated.
You didn't want to share it with the college kids, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
100% appropriate response.
Yeah. No, we scarfed, 3 of us scarfed that pizza down in about 5 minutes. That might even be generous time.
You each took a third, unhinged your jaw. And
yeah, basically. Well, I mean, they cut it basically into 6.
I mean, yeah.
So it was only 2 pieces of pizza per person.
And we were drinking.
We were drinking.
I have no judgment.
Right.
It's a thin crust. Their crust is thin. You can
oh,
do a thin crust pizza when you're drinking.
Yeah. No. This pizza is, I mean, like aside from being 18 inches, is
style. Yeah. Like
kind of a joke.
Really.
But in that same vein, Sam says he doesn't do these parties.
Which, literally the first fucking episode he's at a Halloween party.
Yes, thank you. That's literally the note I have. I'm like, Sam claims not to go to these party experiences, but the first thing we see him do is go to a bar for a Halloween party.
Or I think it was a house, wasn't it? Like, it was like someone's house, I thought.
Oh, I guess I thought it was a bar.
I don't think it's crucial either way. I feel like I remember red Solo cups.
But I mean, exactly. The very first thing we see him doing is going out on a school night.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. It was probably a Thursday, maybe a Friday.
Right. But still, like, dude, you did this at least once.
Like, shut up. You did this all the time. Don't lie.
We have the receipts.
We've got receipts.
You didn't meet your hot, barely registers as a character girlfriend in the library.
It's true. I mean, maybe, but probably not.
Yeah. Can tell you, because I was in the library.
No.
And I would have met her first.
Yeah. So that is how they met was like vaguely explained in a later season.
Yeah.
By vaguely explained, I mean the same reasons that we can guess what happened to the rest of Sam's friends happens in the same episode.
Oh, okay.
They wrap just so many loose ends up there if you're willing.
And that's the Rogue One of plot hole episodes.
Yeah. Oh, Rogue One is so good. I'm sorry.
I always forget Mads Mikkelsen is in it. I love Mads Mikkelsen.
I love that movie. Don't at me. I think it is the best Star Wars movie.
Well, I do love a heist. And I just appreciate that it essentially exists to clear up a plot hole in the original trilogy. That makes me laugh so hard.
So
it's
good.
Very silly, and I appreciate that.
Love it. Like, yeah, I'm totally fine with you retconning this. You know why? Because it's fucking good.
Yeah.
So good.
I'd have to watch it again. I feel like I didn't pay enough attention. I remember enjoying it at the time.
Yeah. I mean, I usually am like, Empire, definitely.
Clearly.
It's really hard to beat Empire. Like, it's classic, iconic. But Rogue One just has all of the benefit of all of the like new technology, They didn't overdo it. It's got such even if the like premise is kind of a bullshitty retcon storyline, the actual writing is really good. The characters are really interesting. The acting is so good, and you get the same music. Like, what else do I need?
You should title this. If I don't know if you've been titling these episodes before you put them up on YouTube. You should title this one "Hot Fucking Take on Rogue One." Snap, and that's gonna get us hot clicks. Using clicks.
Get those clicks.
Feed the algorithm.
I don't believe in that algorithm. So
I couldn't even find these.
There's this movie.
I was looking for them yesterday and I could not find them.
I should send you that. Remind me to do that.
Not that I'll watch because I hate my own face, but
there's this movie. I don't remember if it's from the 60s or the 70s, but it's called The Sword and the Sorcerer. And it's garbage. I don't recommend anyone watch it. But YouTube recommended I watch it for God knows what reason. This was probably like 3 years ago now, right. But Facebook reminds me of it every year because I made a Facebook post about it. And I don't understand the algorithm. I know at least part of it is that Google bought YouTube and Google is always listening.
Right.
I know that's a fact. But the only reason that ever should have come up is if we had said anything about it, and my dad hasn't quoted that in a while.
Well, what about, like, is it in any way even just like surface level related to other things you're into?
Mm-mm. Like, I mean, aside from the fact that like Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Sword in the Stone, those kinds of things, maybe. But the only reason that I have ever had to watch this movie is because the opening scene is actually pretty like epic. Even if you like remove it from the time period that it was made in. They like go into this cave and they find it's the sword. And there's just this very dramatic, like campy lightning wizard sorcery moment where the sorcerer, titled sorcerer, goes, "My art is most powerful," and just like I mean, like nothing else about it matters. Right. Literally, you don't need anything beyond those first like 5 minutes.
I love it.
But that YouTube would have ever suggested this for me without me like talking about it like this, it's gonna pop up again, obviously, next time I go on YouTube, now that I've said this. But
no, it will.
It just the algorithm is broken and it doesn't mean anything.
Do you do a lot of YouTubing?
No.
Okay. See, neither do I. So like my YouTubing lately has been pretty much like specifically either Trixie Mattel and Katya videos. Makeup tutorials, usually involving Trixie Mattel. And
shot.
I know. And BBC Christmas ghost stories.
Yes.
So my YouTube suggestions are very specific.
Did
I what?
Why does this say Moose Milestone? I don't understand. I'm sending you the link to the channel.
Okay.
And the Minnesota Wild made a very strange Facebook post.
Anyway, this is a video podcast where we talk about the show Supernatural.
And other things.
Eventually.
But I think it's totally fair. Like, there's 100% a reason that we're like, Sam didn't have this party experience. Yeah. Bullshit. Bullshit. This is Sam creating some sad victim narrative. I'll not stand for it.
You can do big eye soft voice all you fucking want, Sam. I know you're a liar.
You're a liar.
Lying liar lies. In case you haven't watched the first 4 episodes of this, I'm new to the supernatural.
Yes.
Maddie is not.
I am not.
So I'm going through my first rewatch. Contradiction in terms. I'm going through my first watch of this.
Well, technically you did rewatch this episode. That tracks.
I've seen this episode like 3 times now. Because I first started watching Supernat like a year or 2 ago. Oh no, I was at your house. I was dog sitting for you. And for some reason I couldn't make your TV work. So I was going through your DVD.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Supernat. All right, I'll watch this. Bad idea to watch alone in someone else's home. But because I'm a giant baby who is easily frightened. And I must have gotten at least this far.
Yeah.
So I know I've seen up to at least this, like at least 2 times now, and then I rewatched Skin and Hookman since we last recorded, and my notes were woefully lacking in specificity or insight or basic detail. It was mostly just a few sentences of snark.
Yeah. So
anyway, that's my story. That's how I got here.
We took a little deviation. I like having Erin describe the like plot of the episode and give a little interpretation feedback first, just so I am not like, my internet died. Hold on.
Oop, you're cutting out. Are you fucking around with cables, or is that me?
I am fucking around with a cable now because my internet is unstable for some reason.
Okay.
Somehow an Ethernet cord is just as weird as a USB. There's no reason my internet should be this bad. I don't understand it.
No, that's my job.
Excuse me.
Ma'am. Ma'am.
Ma'am.
Would you calm down?
Go in the fucking hole.
Hey.
Okay.
So while so far it's been good. You haven't dropped again that I've noticed. And that's in any way helpful to hear.
Everything's helpful. Woot woot. Okay.
Okay. So we're doing this?
We can do it the standard way. I know I have a lot more like theme notes in this one.
Right on. I have one that I think I can talk about endlessly.
Probably.
I mean, aside from most things, which I can talk about endlessly. Not that anyone else wants to hear it.
Yeah.
But I can do it. Basic plot synopsis. All right, we're covering episode 7, Hookman, which gives you exactly what the title promises. Nothing more. So we do a patented X-Files cold open on a girl named Lori, who is getting ready for a date with a boy.
X-Files is the first show to ever do a cold open, folks.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, you didn't know that? Don't look it up. It's true. Well, no, it's a patented X-Files cold open because I'm assuming somebody who was involved with the X-Files was involved in this episode. It was either fucking John Scheiben or Kim Manners.
Or both.
Or both. A clearly uptight young college girl named Lori is getting ready for a date with a boy, and she's wearing a button-down shirt for some reason, and immediately does a full 180 by borrowing an outfit from her slutty roommate, who, let me be clear, I am not shaming the roommate. She is just, that is how they fucking like broadcast her as
framing
slutty roommate. You know, basically wears a bra and a jean skirt and goes out on this date. And so they stop for a quick makeout under an overpass before this part on 9 Mile Road, before this party they're supposedly going to. this little boy fucking takes her to make out before they've had a date. Like, there's no date. It's just we're on
that's not a date. If there's anyone here who's considering asking out someone, that's not how you date.
No.
That's not a good first date move.
His game is weak in general because, I mean, she's in for the makeout. Her phone starts ringing. It's her dad. And she's like, no, I'm not answering this call. So she's here for the makeout, but he tries to keeps pushing it. And she's like, no, you stop. And he's like, no, it's okay. Because that's how you respond to someone saying, please don't. It's, no, I'm fine. Titties. You know, that's what you do. Anyhow.
I laugh, but it's only because of the hand motion. For real, though, someone says no, walk away.
Yeah, okay. Let's just go to that party I invited you to, ma'am.
Right.
We see in the distance, the near distance, a man with a hook, and he scratches the 9 Mile Road sign so as to create a noise. And intrepid shitty handsy date goes out to investigate this noise, and there's hubbub and attacking on the car, and Lori eventually gets out. She looks above her, and there he is, hanging upside down like a goddamn gutted pig from the overpass. And she very clearly, like, psychs herself up before she screams, which might be my favorite moment in the whole episode.
Yeah.
She sees him and goes,
ah! Yeah. I mean, let's be real. Screaming is hard.
There's a very clear...
Yeah. But if you're going to be, like, a professional actor, maybe work on that.
Yeah, making it look natural.
Yeah.
But so that's our cold open. Hookman of urban legend fame is real and killing co-eds.
Love it.
Let's see. So
are guys also called co-eds? I thought that was...
I mean, I feel like it generally is referred to as women, but it's a co-ed college. Aren't they all co-eds by definition?
I guess I didn't think so. I thought that was like a woman thing, but maybe not.
I feel like I mostly just you mostly hear like dudes in like bad like Porky's type movies.
Yeah, I mean it's like a shitty old movie kind of thing, right. But
yeah, no, I guess I always assumed it was, you know, all genders just by virtue of it being like it's short for coeducational, right? Like,
yeah.
Then again, went to a same-sex college, so what the fuck do I know?
I Googled co-ed, and the definition is a female student at a co-educational institution.
All right, then. Well, that seems unnecessarily limiting.
The adjective is co-educational. An institution or system that is co-educational. Wow. That is a word we should work to not use anymore. It implies that the standard is males only, and I don't like it.
Fair.
However, in this case, it's still accurate. Hookman kills both guys and girls, so.
Yeah. So the boys see it in, the newspaper? I don't actually remember how they find out. It's either on the website or a newspaper. They see the murder and think it could be something that works for them.
It has to be a newspaper, I would think, because one of my
they're getting coffee.
One of my notes here is that there's no super Wi-Fi. Because Sam has like magic Wi-Fi in later seasons. Partly because Wi-Fi becomes much more like available. My oh my god, this is so long ago note. First off, there's a Avril Lavigne poster. This is 2005. Wi-Fi was few and far between.
Right.
So the newspaper makes more sense.
Yes. And yeah, I think they were at a coffee shop and maybe just flipping through a newspaper. So anyhow, that part's not super crucial. There's the obligatory statement of, I think Dad doesn't want to be found. No fucking shit, guys.
Leave him.
And so then they go off to wherever this was, to
Iowa.
Thank you. To investigate the killings. They pose as frat boys, sort of poke people for details.
Frat boys from another institution.
Right. Well,
claiming to be like frat brothers. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They're the brothers of this particular, branch thereof.
Yeah.
Which I assume that's how frats
or
work.
like
right?
cousin. Or is that's a different one.
Yeah. They find out that Lori is the daughter of a reverend in town. And a guy who's, a little bit uptight, shall we say, classic reverend. They do some investigating at some research at the local library.
Yeah.
As you mentioned earlier, another very 2005 moment. This library has an actual reference collection, and people are using it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They go through arrest records and find that this preacher by the name of Jacob Carnes, who had a hook for a hand. Like, granted, I am about as atheist as it gets, but if I found out there was a preacher in town with a goddamn silver hook for a hand, I would be in that congregation immediately. Like, at least once I would go. Anyhow, preacher, silver hook for a hand, arrested for killing 13 prostitutes, as one does, apparently. I think actually I wrote, we're a hooker murdering hook hand preacher.
Yeah.
Was hanged.
He's a hooker.
I didn't do that on purpose. So they do some investigating. They go back to 9 Mile Road with their shotguns, armed with rock salt, because they assume this is just the angry spirit of Jacob Carnes. They get arrested.
Shocked.
Because that's what happened.
Yeah.
If it's again, they get arrested and not shot because they're white. ACAB. And meanwhile,
dropping real truth bombs here.
I know, right? I mean, this is the hottest of takes. This episode was
hot take. Sam and Dean would already be dead were they not white.
Yeah. Also, Rogue One is the best Star Wars movie.
And yeah.
This is it. This is where we break.
I know. This is where I feel like we need to constantly have a disclaimer in the front. Like, we laugh at things that are very serious, but we also like do everything in our power to like try and be better people.
Yeah, my power is minimal, but I try.
Right. Like, it's not funny that Sam and Dean are still alive. However, we laugh.
Although, to be fair, apparently they do die a bunch.
They do die a bunch. They do.
Just unrelated to
any of the myriad felony offenses that they have on their records.
Right. Jesus Christ. So meanwhile, Lori and her dad have an argument because he wants her to come home for dinner. She wants to go drink tequila shots and watch Reality Bites with her friends. And
really, Reality Bites? Is that how old this is?
Yeah, they were going to do tequila shots and watch Reality Bites.
Yikes. None of that is a good plan.
No, I don't think so.
The dad is in the wrong to like try and control his clearly at least semi-adult daughter, but also that's a really bad plan, and I support him trying to discourage that.
You could have taken a better tactic. Like,
yeah,
honey, I'm of age. I'll get some tequila.
Yeah, come do tequila shots with me.
Yeah, take tequila shots with me and we'll watch Ben-Hur or some shit. Like, whatever.
Are you like intentionally using my dad's exact scenario, or?
I just figured it's the kind of movie a preacher dad would watch. It's also unintentionally the movie your dad would watch. So anyhow, she argues with her dad over him saying that her friends are real slutty slut sleuths, and all they do is drink, and she shouldn't be hanging out with them. She basically says, "You can't tell me what to do," and leaves.
Yeah.
Goes back home to her roommate, sleeping, peacefully in bed. Wakes up to slashed up, slutty roommate. Rest in peace, we hardly knew ye. with some terrible sigils on the wall in blood, and didn't it say aren't you glad you didn't turn out the light?
Yeah, like very classic, like kitschy urban horror story.
Yeah, it's a very slasher movie like moment.
Yeah.
Which clearly they're playing with some of those tropes, which is
this is like one of the I don't really want to call it a campy episode because I don't even know that it deserves that, to be honest.
I don't know how much of it is intentional.
Yeah.
There has to be an element, I think, of intentionality to camp.
Right. Like, aren't you glad there's a lot of mixing in this one where it's like, okay, are you doing Hookman? Are you doing like the classic babysitter horror story? Because like that's what I think of is the babysitter.
It brings to mind like what is it? Is it Black Christmas that's set in a college? It's all these girls who live in a house together, like the original Black Christmas.
I don't know, like
stuff like that.
Yeah, you know. But like why
allergy season? It's fun for all,
right? I feel like this is the point where every female viewer should have just noped out. Like this episode. Like actual shaming for having like sex and I mean it's all internalized. Like this is clearly an internalized misogyny kind of thing where
I mean that it turns out that's the rationale, that's the motivation,
right?
All the murdering going on. So the guys start to think that okay, it might be that Jacob Carnes was a preacher. They look through old arrest records and find there have been other reverends and other religiously affiliated men who have been arrested for doing bad things to people, and they've all said it was a disembodied force, not them.
Yeah.
So they think that Lori's reverend dad might be somehow either intentionally or unintentionally summoning the spirit of Jacob Carnes. So Dean goes off to try to find the unmarked grave of Jacob Carnes and finds it way too fucking easily. While Sam goes to stake out their house, the Lori and her dad's house.
Mm-hmm.
She sees them arguing, or he sees them arguing rather. Hears from the front lawn somehow that her dad is having an affair with a married woman, and she finds him hypocritical and is angry about it. Meanwhile, Dean digs up the body, burns the remains, assumes all is well. Lori goes outside to talk to Dean, or to Sam, and Hookman grabs Reverend Dad, and we realize that it's Lori who is inadvertently summoning the spirit of Jacob Carnes, because she thinks everyone should be punished for doing this shit for some reason. Yeah. Another sort of weird, inconsistent nonsense thing I have a slight problem with, but
yeah, I think it's a lot of like repression. Personally, I don't think that she actually believes that.
Well, she must on some level if it's coming out that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a little bit inconsistent, you know.
Yeah.
I think there are interesting sort of themes to talk about in terms of repressive ideologies being poison, especially where young women are concerned.
Yeah, I guess the best term that I can think to describe it that's coming to mind is like self-flagellation, where it's not really something that she might believe necessarily, but because she grew up in a pretty strict household, seeing like her dad, for example, betray everything that he like kind of enforced with her, at least in his case, and then with, I don't remember the roommate's name, but for some reason Stacy is coming to mind.
So,
like it's not necessarily that she believes that Stacy is a slut and deserves to be punished.
Right.
It's that she wants to be more like that, and so she deserves to be punished, and that punishment just manifests in removing kind of that impetus.
See, I don't think so, because at the very end, so we find out that she's inadvertently summoning the Hook Man, and she says, "My God, I'm the one doing this. I deserve to be punished." And then he comes for her.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if this was a self-flagellation thing, like, he would have come for her from the get-go. I think, if nothing else, I think subconsciously, even if, she does want, like, she wants to go on the date with the boy and have makeouts under the underpass.
Mm-hmm.
She wants to go to the party.
Mm-hmm.
She wants to drink tequila shots and watch reality bites,
Mm-hmm.
But if anything, I mean, I guess you can kind of gloss over some of what I perceive to be inconsistencies,
Mm-hmm.
in that she wants these things, but because she was brought up in such a strict environment, she still judges them as wrong, sort of in a weird instinctive level, even if she's trying to overcome that in her own behavior. And that's what's coming out with the Hook Man, is it's that sort of ingrained, this is bad and deserves punishment.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like, I still don't know that it's not more of a, like, removal of temptation almost. Not necessarily, I don't know. It's hard to tell, obviously. Right. They didn't give her enough.
Didn't give her a ton to work with.
Didn't give her a ton. We can only assume.
So anyhow, they realize that Laurie's the one, if not controlling him, at least summoning him, the Hookman spirit. There's a chase in the church. They figure out that they didn't destroy all of him. They still need to destroy the Hook. The Hook was melted down into a series of objects, which they all burn on the hottest fireplace ever known to man. And the final element is a silver cross that Laurie wears, that is a church heirloom her dad gave her. They burn that. Hookman goes away. The boys ride off into the sunset.
Yep, that's about it.
And yeah, I had some issues with it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, like I said, this episode is kind of where, like, people should have noped out. Like, there's a lot of, like, kind of toxic stuff in this episode.
Oh, totally. And it's not even, I mean, to some degree, maybe they're engaging with the toxicity. Like, I do think it's interesting that they made it, it's not the preacher who actively, consciously believes that these things are sinful, even as he engages in, sinful behavior. It's the daughter.
Yeah.
Who consciously is perhaps stepping away from some of those things she was brought up with, but internally is still wrestling with it.
Yeah.
And how that sort of repression poisons you, particularly for young women, where, the modern evangelical movement, essentially women are both supposed to be utterly, like, they cannot be trusted with their own will, their own responsibility, their own actions or lives, but they're also still somehow personally responsible for anything that men do to them.
Yeah.
In terms of temptation, etc. So it's like, that's sort of like, that's untenable.
Right.
And granted, I'm very fortunate not to have grown up in that environment, but I'm sure it absolutely fucks with you.
Yeah.
To put it mildly.
Right. For sure.
And it does have repercussions in, it causes pain and suffering to those around you. Whether it's perpetuating the poison, or, otherwise just having kind of fraught and traumatic relationships, or, whatever else. So the idea of kind of manifesting that in an external antagonist is interesting. I just don't know that it was done very well.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those harder things to like parse out what would have made it better. For example, like a lot of other episodes, it's pretty clear what would have made something like better. Like would it have been better had it been the preacher all along because that better fit? Is it more interesting because it was actually like this daughter who is struggling with kind of like dealing with being in a like temptation heavy location versus it, but it's hard to tell what would have made that more successful. In, for example, like we don't necessarily see eye to eye on what that is implying for her. Like, is it actually, I have written here, like, it's about self-loathing, and that's what it is, mostly because I know that that's a pretty, like, heavy theme across the rest of the characters in the show.
Right, yeah.
So, like, self-loathing makes a lot of sense here. And how it's manifesting, like, okay, if it's not her punishing herself, because you made a very good point, like, it comes after her, but if she's not recognizing that she is the one that is not, I don't know, it's like displaced blame, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. Like she's blaming her roommate, she's blaming this guy for the temptations, which is why they were the ones attacked, not her.
Yeah, no, I think that's completely valid reading.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing where I would differ is I don't necessarily see it as a solution. You know, like this is, you know, there is temptation, I will remove the temptation. Obviously not consciously. But I think I do see it more as it's particularly in that what we learn about the spirit of the Hook Man is that he was diabolically punitive. Like he killed sex workers because he saw them as sinful. Right. And you know, I didn't think about this until just this moment, but there's a horrible, you know, parallel to be made with the recent shootings in Atlanta, where, you know, this is another toxic fucking man who sees women as, you know, women are responsible for my temptation, therefore I must remove them. You know, it's punitive.
Yeah. And I mean, it definitely carries through.
Yeah, and then so then as he's kind of summoned throughout the ages, it, you know, that sort of similar thing happens.
Right.
Yeah, I think but I think you're right. I don't think that, like, I think that the implication for me at least is that she carries some of these sort of toxic attitudes, but not that she consciously believes them. You know, I think she is someone who would, you know, maybe eventually step away from the church or try otherwise to like divest herself of some of these more dangerous or more harmful attitudes that she was brought up with.
Yeah.
And that he's the sort of the personification of that struggle, maybe.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it could have, there's so many things that it's like, okay, what would have made this more interesting or more clear? And it's like one of the things, okay, when the Hook Man was initially summoned at the beginning of the episode, was he going to kill her too? Like, you know, like you can't really tell from the way it's framed. You couldn't tell necessarily whether or not she would have also been a victim of this killing, because like she's still there.
Well, yeah, I guess that's my only question is if she wasn't an intended victim, what stopped him?
Yeah.
Like, I think I mean, I don't think she was in control of his actions.
Certainly not.
No, but she was definitely in control of, like, she, consciously or not, she was directing him.
Yeah.
And that's why he didn't come for her until the very end when she realized, oh, I'm responsible. I'm the one who needs to be punished.
Right.
And he pulls a you rang and like
in
the church.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I keep saying that. I'm sorry, I need to clear that verbal tick up.
What's that?
I don't I don't know necessarily if like what exactly the impetus behind the summonings is, because if she is unconsciously focusing this like on the silver that she's wearing, which is, you know, how they imply it, like,
yeah, that's the vague explanation given.
The like timing of most of these things is really inconsistent and doesn't make a lot of sense. So like, okay, she's there, she's uncomfortable. The guy who has no real game is trying to, like, you know,
yeah,
shot, as it were.
Yeah.
And taken almost instantly.
Yeah.
So
that one makes sense.
She gets home, sleeping roommate.
Makes no fucking sense.
Makes no sense. Because what, is she just standing there like, God, you're such a fucking slut? Like, yeah.
It has been established this is a messy, like, noisy process. He's banging the car around, he's scratching shit up, like, you hear all kinds of nonsense. Did she take an Ambien before she went to bed, or is she just an excellent sleeper? Because there was carnage in that room.
Know she didn't have tequila.
Yeah, she didn't have tequila. Like, come
on. And then like the dad was pretty instant.
Yeah, and that was immediate almost.
Yeah. And she's like sitting there telling Sam how hypocritical and like wrong she has always been told to believe it is. And so it's just, it's hard to parse out like what the line is and how much of it is actually her own emotions feeding into it, or her own thoughts feeding into it, or if it's just kind of a general, like, vague, like, it's feeding off whatever energy is available.
Yeah, I don't know. And I think I just put that down to bad writing.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I was kind of trying to parse this out earlier too when I was rewatching it, and I was kind of thinking, well, is it more of a hypocrisy thing? Because that seems really what she's mad about at her dad. It's less the fact that he's having an affair with a married woman. Yeah. It's that he taught me to believe this was wrong and now he's doing it. Yeah. You know, and that makes sense. But it also doesn't, and I guess, you know, it can be a number of things, right? Like, it can be anger at the hypocrisy. It can also be, you know, subconscious judgment of, you know, in the roommate's case, of a woman who does the things that she wants to do but can't, doesn't feel empowered enough, or feels too uptight to do, or, you know, uptight's not the right word, but you know what I'm getting at. Yeah. You know, and maybe that's what that, you know, when she looks over and she sees the roommate asleep, just happily asleep, maybe that's what that shot's supposed to indicate. I think I saw it more as like, she was fine when I went to bed. Yeah. The audience gets to see that. Yeah. But it could be an element of that too. But yeah, right. Like, I think it's, and then the first one, it was less, it felt like she wasn't judging him. She was legitimately threatened. Right. You know, and maybe the element of judgment was there in that, you know, oh no, maybe I want you to grab my tits, but I can't let you because it's wrong. Right. And, you know, I think it's muddled. This might, I think the, not necessarily bad writing in some cases, but trying to keep the element of surprise for the later reveal hurts the earlier killings. That's true. That's because like, she trying to imply that it's the dad the whole time. Right. Like, she has to be so innocent in all of those scenes that she stays just flat. Yeah. And so we can't tell. Yeah. No, and that's a great point though too, because it in the service of trying to maintain a surprise, it harms the plausibility of the whole plot. Right. Like, you might just have to hint a little more. Yeah. Like, I do think have her say something rude to the roommate. Yes. Like, other than, you know, at the beginning there's that half-hearted sort of, well, what wouldn't you do? Yeah. Or you know, she says, don't do anything I wouldn't do. She says, are there things you wouldn't do or whatever? But it's not bitchy. It's like friendly bitchiness. It's not right. It's not like she's actually judging her.
Right.
And when she leaves, it's like, fair.
Yeah.
You know.
And it's not then
Yeah.
that she is attacked in any way.
It's not then. Yeah.
Like,
no, I think that, yeah, like that's, I do think it's more interesting to have her as the catalyst for it, particularly when she's not really in control and doesn't realize it. I think that's more interesting than it just being the preacher again. But yeah, absolutely, they could have dropped a few more, made it a little clearer that she's working through some shit. Like she's got some religious baggage that she's trying to divest herself of. That is, you know, it's instead she doesn't come off as conflicted so much as just underdeveloped.
Right. Because it would have been so easy throw in a line like, stop pushing me to be like you.
Right.
To the roommate, which is something, I mean, it's a cliche line and it happens way too often, but if you're already gonna do a cliche like urban legend and a like, aren't you glad you didn't turn the lights on thing, like give it that setup. It's one line, it's what, 5 seconds of film?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
have her storm out angrily. Like these are things that make sense to add in to give us a little more indication that like maybe she didn't want to be like the roommate and it was a like peer pressure social thing.
Yeah.
At least that gives us more clarity on like where she stands as far as like puritanical evangelical Christianity. Like,
or make it a little bit clearer that she's conflicted on that point. Like the fact that like I've just decided she is mostly because that's how the narrative makes sense to me. I don't know that they've actually given us that.
Well, right. Yeah, no, I definitely think that a lot is left up to trying to figure out what's going on in her head because there's not a lot. Yeah. Like the writers didn't care enough.
Yeah, exactly. Not in like a subtlety, you know, show don't tell way. It's more just in a we did not develop this character thoroughly way.
Right. We decided that we wanted it to not be the preacher.
Yeah.
So,
which again, I appreciate. Like, I think that's cool. That's a good move.
Yeah.
But, you know, men wrote this, you know, like probably. I didn't look.
I didn't look up this one either.
Also, can we talk about how wholly fucking underbaked and like contradictory this depiction of the Hookman is? He makes no goddamn sense.
He doesn't.
And let me say up front, I actually really, really love the idea of them going into urban legends. And like I've said this before, like spooky Americana does it for me.
Yeah.
Like do that. I think that's fucking great.
Yeah.
But the idea that, you know, in Sam and Dean's you know, in exposition dump that they do in every episode when they're talking about, could it be this? Oh, maybe it could be this, you know, I mean, it fits what he says something to the Dean says something to the effect of it fits the Hookman, you know, completely. The body was strung up, you know, but over the car. And I'm like, when was that a feature of the Hookman? I thought they were just killed. And then the hook was hanging on the side of the car. Like,
I guess that's a different one. Like, I mean, there are clearly many versions of this, but the like hanging over, making the ominous like drag across the roof of the car is something I know from Hookman story.
I was just thinking, does Hookman only kill people who are parked under an overpass?
Yes. Have you ever heard the like creepy urban legend that of course everyone like talked about it like it was a real thing that happened, where like your car breaks down in a desert and guy goes to get, of course the guy goes to get like gas or help or whatever, and girl's sitting there alone and hears that there's like an escaped lunatic running around and hears this like scratching, so she's like locks the doors and she's freaking out, and turns out he's like scratching at the roof with his finger and it's like down to a nub, and you're just like, this is really creepy, I never want this to happen.
You know, now that you mention it, I feel like I remember some variant on that.
Yeah.
I mean, it making no goddamn sense though.
Well, of course, none of it makes sense. The guy's like head is on the hood. Like, how did you rip off a head? It takes quite a bit to rip off a head. Like an ear, I understand. It doesn't take that much to rip off an ear.
Right.
You want to know where I first read how difficult it is to rip off an ear? Or rather, how easy it is?
Yes, I do.
In a romance novel.
Are we trusting this information?
I do.
Because I haven't read a ton of romance novels, but most of the time their depiction of romance can't be trusted, let alone
the
ease of pulling off body parts.
Let's find out.
How easy is it to rip off an ear?
Pounds of pressure to pull off an
No, I
ear.
do. Now that you mentioned that, I do vaguely remember a version of the Hookman thing where it's like, I don't know. See, now I'm filling in details in my head that can't be trusted. Like, I don't know if he was on the hood, like, or not the hood, but on the roof of the car and dead up there.
Yeah.
The main thing I remember is the boyfriend dead, the girl trapped in the car.
Yeah.
And when she's found and rescued, the hook is on the door.
Yeah, like the presence of the hook makes sense.
Yeah.
But that's not the case in this because it's a ghost.
Right.
Like the hook is her necklace. It's present.
Yeah,
we just don't know it.
Okay. They destroy the hook by melting down all the shit that the hook used to be made out of.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't it destroy, or they don't destroy the hook, they destroy the hook man. Why
when it like initially was melted down?
Initially melted all that shit down.
Yeah. Well, they salt it and burn it, so.
I mean.
Yeah.
Did they salt the silver?
What?
Did they salt the silver?
Yeah. They throw salt in there, yeah.
Oh, okay, I catch that.
Yeah.
Still, I'm troubled.
Okay, the romance novel said it was 6 pounds of pressure, but it's actually 8 pounds of pressure to rip off an ear, but that's still like a gallon of milk.
Take that, Bobby.
If you can lift a gallon of milk, you can rip off someone's ear.
Good to know. You know, I'm often troubled by how physically like weak I am, so that actually does make me feel a little better. Thank you. We were talking about this earlier. We watched Cabin in the Woods this weekend, and no, we also watched The Descent this weekend, which somehow I had never seen.
Is The Descent the one with the creepy like bat things?
Yep.
Okay. I actually enjoyed that movie. It's so bad, but I enjoyed it.
No, it's not bad. It's a great fucking movie. I will stand by this. It's an excellent film.
The ending is actually pretty good.
Oh, it's so bleak. I mean the English ending.
Yeah.
The British ending. Super fucking bleak.
Yeah.
But it's actually in the ending where when she's climbing, spoilers for The Descent, a 20-year-old movie somehow, she's climbing out of they're in a cave. At some point she's fucking climbing. She's climbing up a thing. And anytime I see, particularly a female character, has to claw her way vertically, or basically completely vertically, out of anything, I'm reminded of how little upper body strength I have, and I am fucked.
Yeah.
If I'm ever in that scenario, I am dead.
Yeah.
Like, I carry a cyanide capsule with me, I am dead in the water.
Yeah.
And it's really depressing. Like, I don't know what the likelihood of me, because I'm never going to go spelunking, clearly, because I'm not a fucking lunatic like Juno. I, like, not an adventurer, not really, like, unless I got kidnapped by some sort of psycho killer with like a Buffalo Bill conversation pit. The likelihood is not great, but still, I consider it.
Yeah.
And I'm demoralized.
Yeah.
Thoroughly.
That's fair. I don't have a lot of I don't have the upper body strength for the rest of the body that I have, so like I am also screwed if that helps you.
You could, I mean, if you got some kicks in there, you'd be fine.
That's possible.
Like a rappel action.
Good kicker.
Down. Whatever.
Geeker.
Geeker.
Yeah. So they salt the silver.
Okay, I didn't catch that bit.
Yeah. It's not good.
It's still unsatisfying, but okay.
It just is. Yeah, so let's see. So just, I'm going to lay it out there in case people watching this didn't already know one of the like themes of this show. It's just daddy issues. Daddy issues, daddy issues, daddy issues. I even have a note in here that it turns out it was the daddy issues they had all along. It's not the daddy issues that they gain along the way. No, it's just the daddy issues they had all along.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, I talked about self-loathing because I know that that is a like classic trait within Supernat characters. So I do think that there's a pretty heavy aspect of that in this character, even if they don't show it, given the like number of characters in the show that hate themselves. It's a pretty solid bet she hates herself.
Yeah. Well,
not that she doesn't also hate other people, but she hates herself.
Well, yeah, I think it's another aspect of the repression, right? And the poison thereof.
Yep. And then I had to make a note of this because I loved it so much. When they're running through the like back of the church area, there is this cute little like sign up on the board that's got like, you know, craft papers on it and little craft paper flowers on there, and it's reaping with joy. Not reaping joy or weeping with joy, it's reaping with joy. And I was like, mwah. Like, I don't care what else happened in this episode, that one little like background thing made it so amazing.
The only things I made note of, other than her obviously psyching herself up to scream in the cold open, was, which I appreciated so much.
Right.
So stupid. I love it. How Sam ingratiates himself with Lori to try to get information by doing big eyes soft voice, of course, patented big eyes soft voice, and saying, I saw someone get hurt once. like are you touched? Like, is there something wrong with this boy? Seriously.
Sanitized version of his life,
which I think was supposed to, like, was meant to indicate, I am still so very raw by the loss of my dear girlfriend Jess that I cannot speak of it. But he just comes off as like,
I'm making this up, I'm lying to you.
Yeah, lying to you or brain damaged.
Oh,
he suffered a concussion immediately before talking to her.
Yep.
What are you doing? Not a lot of good X-Files content for this one. There's a few things that are like in the same sort of ballpark, but not like, they didn't do Hookman, unfortunately.
No.
If only. I want to see Mulder and Scully meet the Hookman. I would have watched that. So there's Shadows, which is I think in season 1. It's an episode where a woman is kind of protected murderously by the ghost of her former boss.
I was gonna say, yes, that is an episode in season 1. We haven't reached it yet.
Oh, they do it too. Avatar is an episode where Skinner is kind of menaced by like the ghostly apparition of an old woman, and it's in some way tied to his time in Vietnam.
I forgot he's in this. I'm so sorry. When we get to season 6.
I get fucking Mitch Pileggi in this?
Yeah, you do.
Excellent. Is he still kind of hot in a concerning way? Because
I don't find him attractive in any way, shape, or form, but that's not saying a lot.
I was gonna say, normally the daddy thing doesn't really do it for me. I will make an exception for Mitch Pileggi.
Yeah, no. Not as far as I am concerned, but I totally forgot that he was in this.
That's amazing.
Rather, I forgot that he was in X-Files because this is a much stronger source for my...
Yeah. I mean, obviously, fuck Skinner, marry Scully, kill Mulder.
Yeah.
As beautiful a man as David Duchovny is.
Well, now you have something to keep watching this through at least season 6 for.
I mean, aside from creating content for our zeros of viewers.
We love you, non-existent viewers.
We love you, non-existent viewers. And then Excelsis Day is an episode where it's a rest home and the old people are astral projecting. And Walk is another episode also featuring astral projection. But the main connection to me with X-Files for this was, so the Reverend Dad was played by the principal, it was played by the actor who was the principal in Die Hand die Verletzt, which is an excellent episode featuring satanic high school administrators.
Yeah. So I don't know how you feel about John Shiban.
Let's throw the whole thing off.
Shiban. Shiban is my like knee-jerk pronunciation, but I have no idea.
Shiban is what I went to.
Shiban. I'm good with whatever.
Johnny.
Him.
Yes.
How do you feel? Do you know like which episodes of X-Files he might have written, and do you find him to be a strong X-Files writer? I'm curious about these things. Like, okay, if we're gonna keep comparing to X-Files, I'm curious about the like writing and directing staff of these seasons versus those.
Him, I mostly know by name. I don't think I could pick out any individual episodes he wrote.
Right.
Like, not like, I mean, obviously Darren Morgan isn't the best example because he only wrote like 5 or 6, and they're all the best episodes of the series. But yeah, so Darren Morgan, or even like oh my god, what's his name? Glenn what's his bucket and James Long, the two who directed Final Destination.
I know James Wan.
No, Wong.
Oh, Wong. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, Glenn Morgan. Darren Morgan's brother. Glenn Morgan and James Wong. Who they co-wrote a bunch of them and co-directed, I believe, Final Destination.
Okay. Yeah, one of them definitely did Final Destination. Because didn't that start as like
it started as an X-Files spec script. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when I watched it for the first time, I was utterly delighted because it feels like a long form episode of the X-Files, and it made me so happy.
Yeah. I like, side note, I love the Final Destination movies. The first one is clearly the best one. The second one is like a pretty good follow-up, and then they just are like, they fall off the rails. They're trash after that, but I fucking love the whole series. I will watch them all the time.
I mean, there's even 2 FBI agents whose names might as well be Schmulder and Schmully.
Schmull.
And they give me Tony Todd.
Tony Todd. I forgot we talked about Tony Todd the last time we did one of these. I spot check all of these videos before we put them online, because even though I don't do any actual like editing, you just get our like diarrhea stream of consciousness. That's what you have to deal with.
That's all I can do.
That's all we're gonna do. But I do edit out to make sure that we're not like talking about like work or other people who may not want to be talked about, things like that. And so I do just little like spot checks, and I was doing that. And we went on a like talk about Tony Todd, and I was like, which character am I talking about? Because and it took me a good like 4 minutes of me talking about this character without naming them to be like, oh, I remember what I was talking about. Because we talk about a lot of things, and especially for me, like there's no real timeline outside. Like if I'm talking about something, it could be at any point of the 15 seasons, unfortunately. Because that's why I'm here, and I do my best not to do spoilers, and I do my best to give any context that's like appropriate.
I forget the words that have come out of my mouth 4 seconds after they've left my mouth.
So. Yeah, I had totally forgotten we had that conversation, and I was like, Tony Todd would have been amazing as that character. I got back on the train when I was listening to it.
That statement will almost always be true.
Yes.
Like, we could be talking like Juliet in Romeo and Juliet. Tony Todd, I'd watch that shit.
Have you ever watched Modern Family?
I think I've seen it in like hospital waiting rooms and shit. I've never actually watched it on purpose.
I think this was like one of the first like 2 or 3 episodes that this happened, but one of them is at like a baby play group. And one of the moms is talking about Mamma Mia, which we talked about last time we saw each other. And was like, oh, I loved Mamma Mia, but I wasn't really sure about Meryl Streep like being in it. And the character does a like talking head aside, like, I don't care what role it is. Meryl Streep is the right person for it. That's not true. It's not true.
I don't think
similarly, like, there are definitely, I would say any supporting character in Supernat would have like benefited from being played by Tony Todd, just because like he is that great. I wouldn't want to see either Sam or Dean as Tony Todd. I think it would have been really interesting if John had been played.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Tony Todd is John Winchester.
John Winchester, Tony Todd.
Yes. Oh, I'm here for it.
Everyone watching.
Just go with it. It's fine.
One of these things is not like the other.
In 10 minutes, he'd be so good that the audience just accepts it. They're like, cool.
Oh, right. Like, I don't even care. Just like,
don't even care. Just, Candyman.
Oh, that being said, I fully embrace basically every casting that the show makes for like recurring characters. The one-off characters less so. Most of them are not great. For example, they need to like psych themselves up to scream. At least, so there's a couple times that happens. Like, a lot of them are okay at screaming if they're not just being like murdered outright.
Right.
But there's another one who they're like on an actual set of something that's being filmed. And she does that clearly intentionally, but she's like, you're like, why?
Oh, will that be the episode I reference X-Cops? Or not X-Cops, Hollywood AD?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably.
Although I hope there's an episode I get to reference X-Cops, because X-Cops is fucking awesome.
I don't know. Anyway, I was looking at the list of this John Shiban. John S.
Johnny S.
John S. He's actually got a pretty decent list here. Only does seasons 1 and 2. But
Supernat or X-Files?
Of Supernat. Scarecrow.
Oh, I like that one.
Did you reach 15 yet? The Benders?
So. Let me check my notes. I think I did.
You did write Scarecrow with someone else.
I sure did. I made it to 16. Nope, 17.
Ooh.
Which I'm going to have to rewatch entirely.
Oh, shoot.
It's fine. I mean, I might not have to. I actually started writing good notes a few episodes in.
Yeah.
So
after a few of these, trying to figure out like what works for these.
Exactly. Just being like, what information did I wish I had when I was talking about this?
Yep. BTW.
Yeah. Scarecrow was baller though. I liked it.
Yeah, Scarecrow is a pretty good one. That's kind of when I feel like the season hit its stride. Like started getting a little more consistently good.
Definitely.
Earlier episodes here still pretty rough.
Still patchy.
As you know, evidenced by the fact that the next episode we'll be covering, everyone, is bugs. I will always say that I don't think bugs is quite as bad as the fandom would make it out to be. However, writers both in real life and in the show have apologized for this episode. I get it. It's not great.
I don't know that it's apology level where compared
well, that's what I think. I don't think that anyone needs to apologize for this episode, no. But it is it's either the second or the third worst rated episode.
I mean, it's definitely it's not due for a reappraisal. Yeah. We'll go with that. It's pretty shitty.
Yeah.
But it's not, I don't think it's, I guess we'll talk about, I'll rewatch it again.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it next week. But as I recall, I don't think it was any more or less execrable than some of these early ones that I did not care for.
Yeah. No,
and there are a couple of humor moments that I actually did appreciate, as I recall.
I don't know. I laughed a lot. But we'll get to that.
But non-existent viewers.
Yeah, so we'll be covering Bugs and Home.
Shit all over Bugs and Home.
I'm only gonna half shit on Home. I'm gonna do half shit on both of them because I don't think Bugs is nearly as bad as the reputation has made it.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. It's unfortunate. And we'll talk more about the premise next time. Yeah. Yeah. Slightly problematic, but which episode hasn't been so far?
Right.
So yeah, we'll cover those and hopefully maybe one day have a viewer.
They'll still be non-existent though.
Oh. Yeah, we'll never be able to stop calling them non-existent viewers, even if we were to have viewers.
Even if 2 people ever watch this, they're still non-existent viewers.
Didn't we have 2 people that were semi-interested?
At least one person that I know of.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna sign off here. Thanks for joining us.
Catch us next week for Bugs and Home.
Woo!
I'll probably still be a bitch about it. It'll be fun.
No reason not to, especially at those episodes.
Thanks for not watching. Goodbye.
Bye.